Hi, I'm Leo,
I'm Stormy.
and we are
Sister Thrifters.
Now, today's video is going to be a little different. It's not about sisters necessarily, and it ain't nothing about thrifting at all. But just thought it might be interesting for people to watch. So, a few weeks ago, my sister texted me and said, "Hey, have you heard that they are doing a documentary on Netflix about the Jerry Springer show?" And I was like, "No, I haven't heard about that." She's like, "Well, do you think you might be on it?" She was like, "Did they interview you for it?" And I was like, "No, they didn't." And the reason why she asked me that is because
In 1994, we were all on the Jerry Springer show.
yeah, we were on the Jerry Springer show back in 1994. So it was a little bit before every show was a fight, but it was not too early that there wasn't some nudity on there. So
There was plenty
it
of
wasn't,
nudity.
but it wasn't me, and
It wasn't me.
her. Just saying. But anyway, so I wanted to share with you our story about being on the Jerry Springer show. I actually did watch the documentary just to see what the guests were saying and what they were saying about the show, whether it was fake or not, and like how it all went, just to kind of compare what they were saying about the show to my experience and her experience on the show. Okay, so here's how the story goes. This is the long saga of how I ended up being a guest on the Jerry Springer show. All right, so I was in college at the time, and I don't know, junior or senior, I can't remember, but I get a
It
call.
was in 1994.
It was, yeah. So I must have been a junior because I graduated in '95, and so and I will show a few clips. Okay, I'm not putting a link directly to the video because it is embarrassing as hell. Okay, and it's really pains me to watch that video again just so I can get the clips out for this video. It is embarrassing. Let's just say, when you're 20 and you make any video, it's going to be embarrassing, right?
But anyway. It wasn't a paternity video. It wasn't like you are not the father. Not that kind of video. It wasn't. Being cheated on by a transvestite alien. It wasn't anything like that.
No, it wasn't. In fact, my part on it was rather boring. But so I'm at my apartment in Athens where I was going to college, and I get a call from my stepsister. Should we name her name?
Yeah, we're gonna
okay,
name her.
So my sister Annie, her dad was married to our mom. She calls me and she's like, "Hey, would you like to be on the Jerry Springer show?" And I was like, "Yeah. What do I need to do?" So she was like, "Okay, so here's the story." So the Jerry Springer show had been contacted by this place called Cafe Erotica, which was a nudie bar, a titty bar, or whatever you call it, in our hometown. There had been a lot of
protests?
Yes, a lot of protests going on in our town, specifically by a church group. They had been picketing outside the parking lot. They had been doing everything they could do to try to protest this business being in business in our town. They wanted it shut down. And so there was this big controversy in town. And so the Jerry Springer show decided to do a show about the whole controversy. Well, when they contacted the owner of the Cafe Erotica, he said, "Sure, we'll let you do the show on two conditions. We got to do the show from my cafe, from the titty bar, and I'm not closing for business because I'm open 24/7. So they said yes. Yeah, so they were like, okay. So they had agreed to come bring the whole show to the cafe to film from inside the cafe while they were in business. And so they had set it all up. They were getting ready. They were going to film the show like the next week. Well, as soon as the church group found out that they were going to film inside the cafe, they were like, "We're not doing that. We're not setting one foot inside of that place. No." So the whole protest group, the whole church, everything backed out at the very last second, like right before they decided to do the show. I don't even know. They might have already been in town. I'm not really sure. And so they were like, "Holy crap." So they had to have an adversary. They had to have people or a group of people or somebody on the show that was against them, because they just have a show about a nudie bar in this town. That's not really a show. There wouldn't be any fights. There wouldn't be any arguments, nothing. And so they started asking the girls who worked there, "Hey, do y'all know anybody? Do you have any family members or friends or know anybody that's like against you working here that would be willing to speak out against having this place here? Anybody that you know that would be willing to come on the show and protest this place. So we have to have a battle, and one whole side just forfeited. And so they were like, I don't know. So one of the girls, we'll call her Maria. Yeah, we'll call her Maria. Anyway, Maria.
She worked at the Cafe Erotica.
Yep. So you tell them the story about how that came about.
Well, Maria worked at the Cafe Erotica, and she was the sister-in-law of our stepsister. So Annie, who is our stepsister, she's married to Tommy, and Maria is Tommy's brother. So Annie is going to go to be a protester. Annie's going to go to be on the show because it's her family that's working at the strip club. So that's how she got in touch with us. It was like, do you want to be on the show? Now, at the time, I was only 16, so I wasn't even legally allowed in the club. So I couldn't be a guest on the show, so I just sat in the audience and sat in the back. We're going to try to find me in the audience. I don't know if you can find me, but so I just sat in the back and watched. But Leo got to be on the show.
Right.
And she took her boyfriend with her.
Oh, well, yeah, oh God.
Oh, God.
We'll have to get into that one. I just want to say at this point, Dave, I'm sorry. That's all I have to say after all this time. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so Annie decided to be on the show because she didn't like the fact that her sister-in-law, who's the mother of her nieces and nephews, you know, she didn't want their mom to be a stripper. She's, you know, it's not good for the family. It's not good for a mother to be doing these things. Like, she's just like, can't you find some other place?
They're getting up naked and dancing for men who should be at home with their wives and their families.
Then they should go home with their wives and family. People that are
If
here.
places like this were not open, they would be at home with their wives and their families.
You
The
can't
moral
stop.
structure of this country is going downhill because of places like this.
We're not forcing anyone to come in here. They're coming in here because they want to come in here.
But if places like this were not here, they wouldn't be here.
First of all, most of the girls have stood up and said that they wouldn't work here. Don't worry about it. You couldn't get hired here anyway. I know girls with master's degrees that don't make what I make, and don't judge me because you have no right.
And I'm
You
not
have no
judging
right.
anyone.
You
I do
no
not have
right.
any problem with you. I love Maria very much, and it bothers me that that is what she does. And
Why
she
does it
knows
bother
that
you?
that.
Don't you have a life? Why does
Yes,
it bother
I have
you
a
when
life.
somebody
I got a
else
better
does?
life than you got.
I hear
standing
you.
up there with
I
your
hear you.
everything
I
hanging
hear
out
you.
for everybody to see. When you get married to a man, don't you want that to be special between the two of y'all? Well, what can be special if everybody else done seen it all?
You got a man that looks as good as him.
Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes, ma'am, I do.
And she's like, well, I mean, I make enough to send my kids to private school, and I live in this big giant house. What do you do, right? But anyway, so Annie was going to be on the show to protest her family member working there. And then they ask Annie, hey, do you know anybody else that, you know, whatever. And Annie's like, well, I don't know how my stepsister feels about all this, but she's pretty smart and she's pretty outspoken and she doesn't mind a verbal argument. So let me call her and see how she feels about it. And they were like, please call her. So she called me. She tells me all this stuff. And I'm like, you are bullshitting me. Like, you're pulling my leg. This is not real. She's like, I swear to you, this is real. And I said, okay, well, give him my number, I guess. So she gave my number to one of the producers, who about 15 minutes later called me at my apartment. And they were like, so, I understand you, blah, 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 blah. And of course, I already know what the controversy is supposed to be. At the time, I'm 20 years old. I don't give a damn about nudie bars anywhere. Like, I would not have worked at one, but like, I didn't care if it was open or closed or whatever. But if you want to put me on TV and give me a platform, I'll say whatever it is you want to say, right? So they were like, how do you feel about it? Now, in their defense, I did not lie. I mean, I did not tell them, I don't care, but I'll say this. I wanted to be on that show. And so I pretended that I was like, I had all my notes ready. I was like,
And I don't want to be labeled as a person who comes from the nudie
I
town.
was like, it's degrading to women, and they don't pay enough, and they don't pay hardly any taxes, like all this stuff, right? So I had my whole list down. So when they called me, I gave my spiel. I was like, this and this and this. And they were like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like you really are. Yeah, sounds like. So we'd like to have you on the show. And I was like, okay. So it's in my hometown, which is only like 2 hours away. And so they're like, we're going to be in town. So there wasn't like they could fly me anywhere. But they're like, we'll put you up in a hotel. And we'll provide all of your refreshments. So I was like, okay. And so I said, well, that's when I asked him, I said, can I bring my sister? Sure. Then we get there, I was like, well, she's not exactly legal. And they're like, well, she can't be on camera. She can't be on she can't be on the show, but she can be in the audience and she can watch. Okay.
The temptation was not here. They would go to a bar and pick up a girl and probably go home and spend the night with her and probably wind up with AIDS or herpes or something else.
And I said, they said, well, do you know anybody else? Blah, 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 blah. And I mentioned something about my fiance at the time. And they were like, oh my God, can you bring him? I was like, I don't know. I'll ask. I'll try, and they're like, please. And you'll find out what exactly happened about that in a minute. But I said, okay, well, I'll ask. Well, he agreed to come to the show, not to be on the, just be in the audience. But he said, I'll come be in the audience to support you, but please promise me that you will not embarrass me or call me out. And I was like, I swear, I promise, no problem. So, spoiler alert, let's just say that we never got married. So, yeah, I'll talk about that part of the story. But, so that's how that whole thing got started. They did set us up in a hotel. They did provide all the refreshments, and they invited us over to their room where the producers and the camera guys and all the people were a few doors down. Said, hey, we got a cooler full of refreshments. You want to come over? So we did.
We did.
And so we went, and we just had nice conversation, and it had a nice time. Nothing nefarious happened or whatever. We just, we laughed and cut up. And to be honest, I don't know who it was. I don't know what their names were. I couldn't even tell you if the guys on the documentary that I watched, if it was the same people, because they have several different producers I didn't recognize, but I don't know. It's been 30 years. I really don't remember. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the middle of this interview, I will put a few clips, just in case you don't believe me. I'm going to put a few clips of the show and let you know how it goes.
I need to add something. When she went on the show, she wore her UGA flag line sweatshirt, and she was on the flag line at the University of Georgia. And so since she wore that shirt on the show, they ran that show like 20 times in Athens because she had UGA flag line on her shirt. So like they made sure that everybody in Athens saw. She gave a free promo or free publicity to the UGA flag line. They also did her hair. She had big hair and lots of makeup. They did her hair and makeup. And so that was not my sister's hair and makeup. They did it for her. And they also said, they didn't tell us what to say, but they told us to make sure that you be real strong about your convictions and make sure you pump everybody up. They wanted us to be exciting. They wanted us to not just say, no, I don't like it.
No.
Right. They wanted lots of energy, lots of excitement.
I'm sure they wanted a fight if one had broken out, but we didn't actually have one. So.
And another thing about Cafe Erotica is they were open 24 hours a day, and you could go in there and you could eat. Like they serve like food. Like you can order. Like after the show we had chicken nuggets or chicken tenders, and we were served by a naked woman. Like it wasn't just topless. Like she was naked. No, she was naked.
That's what we say in the South. She was naked.
Yeah. So we got served some chicken tenders with some plumpy breasts.
When they
the breasts were
double breast.
Yeah.
So we got when they as they were doing my hair and makeup, they were like, okay, like I said, it's not staged. Mm-hmm. I know they say it was fake and staged and all that stuff. It was not, but it was orchestrated, right? So they even told me, they're like, okay, so this is your position. Your stepsister is here to argue against her sister-in-law, so they're going to have their dialogue. Your issue is going to be with the owner. The owner of and I don't know if his name is James or John or something.
John.
He's in there, And they're like, so your beef is going to be with the owner. You speak directly to him and you get in his face and you tell him exactly what you think about this place. And I was like, okay.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Yes, Drill
They're like,
Sergeant.
can you do it? Can you handle it? Because it's going to be you against him. And he's good because he's done all these interviews. He's used to people, tearing him apart. He's an older guy. He's big and like muscular. And then right before the show, somebody tells me, we think he's like a part of the mob or
Mafia.
something. Yeah. And I'm like,
Great.
okay, shit, okay. And so they basically, like, they set up, the battle and set everything up. And then they, just like coaches do in a fight in the corner, they get you all like, you get out there and you cheer him up. Just like they showed in the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
They do that. They hype you up. They're like, you get in there and get right in his face. And I was like, okay. So they go out there in the first scene and I go and I get on it, I guess, because I haven't watched the clip in a long time. I'm fixing to watch it after this, but you see how it stresses me out.
Also, Lori Harris. Now, Lori, you live here in this community.
That's correct.
And you aren't happy that this club is around. Why?
Well, the main problem that I have with this is that I grew up in this town. When I was growing up, this thing was not here. And when I went and told people where I was from, I said, I'm from Warner Robins, Georgia. And they said, oh, isn't that where the Air Force Base is or the Aviational Museum? And I said, yeah. And now when I tell people that I'm from Warner Robins, they say, oh, isn't that where that nudie club is? Isn't that where that Cafe Erotica is? And I don't want to be labeled as a person who comes from the nudie town. And I don't want to be labeled as a woman that comes from a town that allows this to happen.
But and then when we cut to the first commercial, they come out to like redo your makeup and your hair, fluff it all up. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing okay. They're like, you're doing awesome. You're doing awesome. You just keep it up. You keep that energy and you give it to them. I was like, okay.
How old you are? You are how old?
I'm 20 years old.
20 years old. So when you were growing up, there was a nudity establishment in your town.
When I drove down 75, there was not a big sign that said Nudie Club,
They don't know
Cafe
how to market,
Erotica.
I
Now, when you roll down, the sign is about 50 times larger than the little sign that says Warner Robins Air Force Base, Warner Robins Centerville, Exit
You know
45
why?
or whatever.
Because the government don't want to spend any money, and I do.
So you get caught up in this hype that you're like, you think you're giving them what they want. And then the more over the top you get, the more they're like, yes, you're awesome. And so you just keep doing it and you keep pressing.
Hey, you don't have to worry about this. Read this sign. All our ladies work for gratuities only, so please be kind. You don't have to pay them. You don't have to get up and strip in front of anybody.
I'd strip right in front of you. You want me to?
No.
Next thing you know, somebody's fighting. We didn't fight, but that's how that shit happens on the show because they it's like dog fights. You get in there and they get you frothing at the mouth and then they set you loose on each other.
Well, I was not reading the signs. I was not interested in the signs. And I walked in and I was appalled. I could not believe that these women were spreading their legs in front of men's faces when they should have been home with their wives. And it made me ashamed to be a woman.
On top of that, we've got the crowd. Now, in a normal setting, you would have the studio audience. Some people might be on your side, some people might be on their side. Everybody wants to fight and an excitement. But since the show was in the cafe, the girls behind us, the whole time there was girls behind us in a cage. Mm-hmm. They're behind
they're
us
doing their dance.
and they're dancing, but they got bikinis on only because that's the part that was televised. So obviously they can't be naked on the show. But everybody else in the cafe behind the cameras, the waitresses and the workers out behind there, they were all naked. And the people in the audience were the customers of the strip club. Some of them didn't even realize they were going to be on TV until they came in. They're like, hey, we're filming on Jerry Springer today. Do you want to be on camera? And they're like, yeah. What'd that guy say?
I just come here to have a drink with my buddy, a beer with my buddy. One guy said I wouldn't stop for the Air Force Base, but I'll stop to come to your club.
I was driving down the interstate. I would have stopped for an Air Force Base, but I stopped to see your club.
Right. And so everybody in the whole audience had a problem with me and Annie because we were the ones that were like, you need to shut this place down. You need to, all the things that I said. They were like, boo, boo. And so, and I even, I got so caught up in the moment that I know I made that promise to my fiance that I would not embarrass him. But I don't know what came over me. I became possessed, I guess. I don't know. but like I did.
I'm sorry, but I'm not even married, and I would not want my boyfriend going to a bar like this. I don't care what he is or isn't doing with her. He does not need to be looking at another woman's naked body. It is different. It is different than having a bathing suit on. It is a naked body.
I told them that, like I told Jerry that when I'm watching a movie with my fiance, that when a naked woman comes up, or like some, you know, like when their breasts are flashed or whatever, that I make him cover his eyes. And so, and in reality, it did happen, but not for real. Like it was one of those where, like, you know, you see boobs, and I'm like, oh, you better cover your eyes, Dave. You better cover your eyes. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm covered.
Well,
it's like
eyes
a little,
are covered.
right? It's like a little running joke that we had, right? But it was not like, you cover your eyes and don't you look upon her body. Like I did not do that. But I didn't say that on the show. I said, when we look at movies, I make him cover his eyes.
What is
so, yeah, that's what I said. So Jerry was like, you do not. And the whole crowd was like, oh, no. And I was like, yeah. I said, actually, if you don't believe me, you can ask him because he's sitting right there.
I'm watching a rated R movie with my boyfriend and a nudity scene comes on. You can ask him. I make him turn his eyes down. I do not want him looking at me.
She doesn't. Whoa, he doesn't. He's sitting over there. You want to defend yourself?
Make him turn it off.
She's saying that when you're watching a movie that she says you're not allowed to look at it if they're naked scenes, you want to stand up?
I wouldn't want her. See, I wouldn't want her going to a bar, so I just turn around and just, you know, respect her wishes in terms of going to nudie bars. But as far as movies, I don't know.
I'm serious. What is this, Dave? What is this? What is this?
If you're what? I mean,
This is what he does. This is what I tell him to do.
Yeah, but don't you just go like this when you're looking at him?
are you? It annoys you. What is it that if you both at home, okay, you're in the privacy of your own home, you're watching a movie.
What am I to be insecure about on a movie? He's not going to reach his hand through the screen and touch the woman.
Then why? Then the question is, why wouldn't you want him in your own home if there's a nude scene in the movie?
Because he just does not need to see naked women. He just doesn't need to. That's because I'm his woman.
And I pointed him out. Like I got chills right now. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed that I did that to him because I know he didn't want to be on the show. He did not want to be called out like that. And I even told him I would not do it, and I did it. And even while it was happening, like my mind is saying, stop, don't do it. But it just kept coming out. So,
Diarrhea is
like,
about.
it's verbal diarrhea. It just came out. And like, there's no editing. I couldn't go back and say, hey, can you cut that one part? Because, so what do you think they did? As soon as I pointed him out, Jerry goes over and like makes him stand up and puts the microphone in his mouth and says, what do you have to say about this? Right. And if you see it, then I guess you'll see him and know. And like I said, I feel so bad. I really feel bad about that. Like that's my biggest regret. And so even after that, everybody was dogging him like, dude, you're a shell of a man. I can't believe you let her boss you around like that. Like you're just a, you know what, and then like people were offering him free tickets to come back, and they were offering them like their porn videos, and like, I mean, they just felt so sorry for him because they thought that he was being controlled by me.
He was being, what is it, emasculated.
And it wasn't like that, but I did make it sound that way, and I did like lay him right out there, and I feel, and I know I'm going to get comments after this about people saying, how dare you, that was so terrible of you, and I'm just saying right now, I know this. I'm 20 years old and I'm on TV for the first time, and I'm like, I got caught up in it, and like, I'm so glad I didn't fight. I'm so glad that I didn't fight a naked girl for sure. Like, so yeah. And even after, listen, this is how bad it was. I don't even know if you know this. Grandma called me. Did you know this?
No.
Okay. Our grandma called me the next day because she saw the show, and on top of that, she was driving in the car, and the local radio station had watched it because it was a local show.
I did not know this.
And they were commenting about it, and they're like, what about that girl who says she makes her boyfriend cover his eyes up and all that? And they were like, oh yeah, He's a total, like, he's an embarrassment. They were going off on me. They were going off on him, and they talked about it on the radio, and my grandmother heard me, and she saw the show, and she called me. She's like, girl, they're talking about you on the radio, and you've been on that TV. What the hell you been saying? Like, she's like, yeah, you must be so embarrassed for yourself. And I was, and like she said, in Athens, like, they air the show 3 times, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once in the middle of the night. So every person that I knew was like, hey, aren't you that girl on the Jerry Springer show? I was like, no, that's not me. And so that was really hard to live down, even forever after. And my first year teaching was about 3-4 years after that. And I told my first set of students, I was teaching high school, and I was like, yep, I've been on the Jerry Springer show. And they're like, you have not. It was still in the big heyday. And I was like, yeah, and I told them the whole story. And they thought it was hilarious. This was before YouTube, so they couldn't watch it. Thank God. They couldn't find it. They couldn't watch it. I thought I had put it behind me. I would not be doing this YouTube video right now about it if it had been like buried.
She thought it was in the vault.
I thought it was in the vault, locked away, never to be heard from again. But you know, even in 1994, everything still lives. Mm-hmm. And so I would, like, ever after that, when I'd come into the room, my students would be like, Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. They loved it. I got in trouble for that. I got called into the principal's office for sharing that story.
And she probably didn't get a lollipop or a bag of Takis.
I did not. Yeah, I did not get a pep talk and a BIP or an IEP. Mm-hmm. I did not get specialized instruction for that. I got written up.
I didn't pass that, though. I failed everything but the date of birth. Didn't get the job.
So, for that. So,
this would not be her last writer.
I know. So, needless to say. So then we were talking about doing, like I said, we were going to talk about doing the show. And I was texting with Stormy. I said, we need to do this show and talk about it. And she was like, I was like, yeah, now I got to dig through old YouTube and find the damn video. And like 2 seconds later, bloop, she sends me the link. I was like, how did you find that? She's like, it's like the first
I can find anything.
You can find anything.
I can find anything on YouTube. I can find anything on the internet. I'm kind of like a private investigator.
Right. So
if it's on the internet, I'm finding it.
If she wants to stalk you, she's going to stalk you. So listen, I got to pull this up because she watches part of the video and then she starts going through the comments. So I'm going to put the comments up here, and as I put them up here, I'm going to read them. Okay, hold on. I'm going to pull them up. Pull up the comments. Hold on. So these are the comments underneath the original Jerry Springer clip, the whole show, okay? This one's from 5 years ago. It says, that 20-year-old was so mature and grown-up-ish. Guess that's a little more typical in a conservative southern area, but still, modern 35 to 40-year-olds seem younger than she did. Okay, I'll take that because that's about the nicest thing I can expect to hear from that. Okay.
This is good.
So then this other one says, they put the timestamp about when I'm talking to the owner. She's ridiculous. It says, she's now 50 with 10 cats. So that was from 4 years ago. So look, let me just say, I'm 51. I have zero cats, okay? I have no cats.
3 dogs and 2 donkeys.
I have 2 donkeys. I still live in the South. I'm still wearing Georgia Bulldogs shirts, okay? And I'm a lot older, a lot bigger, a little more gray, and my hair's short. And I don't look anything like that, essentially. And I looked for this sweatshirt because I had it up until recently, and I lent it to Braylon, and
it's gone.
She lost it. So I would have loved to wear the same sweatshirt that I was wearing in the thing because I still had it up to recently. But anyway, she says she's now 50.
It's funny how I've tried to look up stuff like her flag line routines on YouTube. I can't find those. Like any of her flag line routines, halftime routines that she used to do when she was on flag line, but I sure could find Jerry Springer.
Right. So we're reading the comments and it says she's now 50 and alone with 10 cats, and then the reply underneath says, that's my mom. So my daughter found this and saw that somebody had said something about me, and then she was like, yeah, that's my mom. And so then it says, The last one says, that 20-year-old acted 45, around the age she actually is now. Probably a religious right-winger. I'm 35 this year, and I feel younger than she did then. Like, what? Okay. Anyway, you can say whatever you want about me, and you can believe whatever you want about me, but, you know, the whole where is she now? Well, here I am now. I was a guest on the Jerry Springer Show. I was a kid. I was 20. It was my 15 minutes of fame. We had a blast. I embarrassed the shit out of myself, and even to this day. And when my daughter, she's 22 now, the one who said that's my mom. I have 4 kids. But when she was 15 and she was wanting to be a rebellious, and I would get onto her or get in trouble or whatever, she got mad at me, she would post the link to that to all of her friends on her Facebook or on her Instagram or on her Snapchat and be like, hey, just thought you might want to watch my mom make an ass of herself when she was young or whatever. Like, she posted it to embarrass me, and the kids are like, OMG, your mom. Like, I guess a way to get back to me. So that's how she saw the post and was like, that's my mom. So, and then as Stormy said, when we got done, the guy who was running the place, he was like, thank you so much for coming and, you know, whatever. And I'm like, I thought he was going to have us, you know, shanked in the parking lot on the way out, you know, like his goonies would be outside waiting for us. But he was so nice and professional. It was like, he said, come on over, have some, you know, we got the best chicken fingers.
Chicken fingers.
Yeah, and he's like, they're better than Hooters.
I want to know what y'all are going to do when you get old and saggy and you don't look this good anymore.
I don't plan on working here when I'm old and saggy.
So he paid for our meal, and he sat around. He was very, very witty and very friendly. And I asked him about it. I was like, so what the heck? You know, we just got into it on the show. And he was like, man, he said, I've been on so many of these interviews because so many people are against me. He said, but this is the way I make money. And he said, you know, this brings me publicity. You know how famous I'm going to be because of this show? He's like, everybody's going to hear about Cafe Erotica now. And so I thought, well, okay, that was smart. I mean, it's free publicity for him. So anyway, that was the story. We went about our merry way. I tried to get Jerry's autograph. I did get it, but they were like, he's very busy, and if he gets a moment, but he's trying to leave, we're trying to get up, and, you know, they were kind of rude. When it was over, it was like, we're done with you. Get the hell out. Go home. Because they needed to get back to, where is it, Chicago or wherever they do their show from. We didn't even get to hear Jerry's final thoughts or whatever. But they did end up letting him give me an autograph, and I lost it. I don't know where it is, but anyway, that was the story.
Well, they did. Cafe Erotica's not there anymore. Cafe Erotica's gone, but we're still here.
The owner is no longer with us on Earth. He has passed away. Jerry Springer is no longer with us. He died last year. But we're still hanging in there.
Here.
And Cafe Erotica, I believe, did it burn to the ground?
I don't know if it burned to the ground. They just got rid of it, but it's gone.
It's gone.
But
there's another one right across the street. So
it's now there's now like an antique store there.
Oh, okay.
We can go thrift there.
The ladies who worked at the cafe are now working at the antique shop.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the story of Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
If you don't believe it's real, it is. It might be embellished a little, you know, or people, they like hype it up, but it is not fake. It is these people are really on here doing these real things, and we had fun and embarrassed ourselves, and it was our 15 minutes of fame, and now we're old, and we have this as our legacy. So now you can bash me all over again. I can take it. It's okay. I understand. That's why I'm not putting the link directly in there, but if you had to find it, then you feel free. Have fun. But it is me on there, even though it doesn't look the same. And if we find her, we'll pop a picture of it and show her, even though she was illegally in there. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Listen, this is not what our show is all about, but we just thought it would be an interesting story time.
Yeah.
But we do have other stories. We're building up our Sister Thrifter brand. We are collecting all of the things. We're organizing the basement. We're starting our whatnot and our eBay shop. And so you can grow along with us and see what we've learned, how we learn by our mistakes, and all the things, our little thrift shop finds and our Gaylord finds.
Yes.
What's a Gaylord?
What's a Gaylord?
And just, you know, learn as we go. So come along on this adventure with us. And, you know, we like to have fun and tell funny stories. We might be it funny only to each other, I'm not sure, but subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any future Jerry Springer updates or any others.
Or any other,
Right, or any other
sisterhood.
Story time.
Sisterhood of the traveling bullshit.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yep, daily bullshit. That's
Daily
what it is.
bullshit.
All right, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.